We are aging constantly. So as you might know, biologists, clinicians, we don't have one definition of when aging really starts. But what you can see clinically is once you have reached your peak at the age of 18 to 25, every function you can measure is just declining.
There has been such an abundance of information, epigenetic clocks, biological age tests, VO2 max, DEX scans and all that. According to Andrea Maier, how should one measure their age?
Let's do a trio.
Crashing the party.
Love it.
Don't trust the numbers that you get from devices or direct-to-consumer companies because oftentimes they don't tell you what the error is.
Yes, but read the article where we actually define the digital biomarkers of aging and look through all the electronic devices to actually see what is the valid one or not.
And what's the answer?
Andrea, thank you so much for being here.
I'm delighted.
I'm so excited for you to be on the podcast. I've been waiting for this for quite a while, but I'm going to dive straight in. You are a unique unicorn in the sense that you are an entrepreneur, an academic, and a clinician, a doctor. Very few people are in this space. And I feel like it's a tough balance to be at the bleeding edge whilst also balancing the risk associated with that. And I want to understand, as someone who balances these three things, how do we advance science in the best possible way whilst also still remaining grounded in evidence-based science?
Okay, we are at the bleeding edge. Wow. I think our field is not bleeding. I think we are growing at this moment in time. And every toddler who starts to walk, of course, I really think that we are absolutely not in the puberty in our field, but we are at the toddler stage. So we try to walk. And this means, I'm not sure if you have ever seen toddlers.
No kids yet, but...
They keep you awake. And secondly, they try to walk and they try to talk. And they make mistakes and they are learning out of it. So I think coming back to your question, science and being a clinician and the entrepreneurship is wonderful because once you have something, you can bring it. So from the science, you can bring it into clinical practice and you can say, okay, is there an advantage if I introduce that into a business? And you know me, so I like it evidence-based. So I want customers to really have good products, which are coming out of the research side. And I think it's unethical not providing then the care as a physician to my clients and to my patients. So it goes really hand in hand. It's a line of thoughts, it's a line of thinking, it's a line of introduction of things we discover.
Yeah. What are you most excited about right now that is also rooted? It's hard. We've got a bunch of toddlers running around the place, crying, shitting. I don't know what they're doing. What are you... We can edit that out, or maybe not. What is exciting you most in the research?
That, of course, I'm sitting here. I think you got what longevity means and what I think how the excitement feels. Most exciting is that we are learning. Most exciting is that we can now measure the biological age of individuals. While having tools, I think we also have to learn then how to reverse the biological age, how to make somebody better. I give you an example. I'm a geriatrician. By training, I set up many falls clinics in my life. I set up many memory clinics in my life. And what I was missing in my field, I don't have the tools to reverse it. Of course, I cannot reverse falls because that's an incident. Falling. Yes, so toddler, falling. Yeah. But then in older individuals with high risk of having fractures, etc. In memory clinics, we don't have that bullet pill to give to individuals yet. What we have in healthy longevity medicine can not only diagnose a biological age, we can tell you how old you are currently, but we can reverse it. So there's a very positive story around it. And that's so exciting. Like it's my dream.
Tell us about that.
The dream is to really change healthcare totally. I tried it for the last 20 years. I was thinking about it since 20 years. I wrote my first business case to open a then called early warning clinic 18 years ago. And I presented it to the CEO of, at that time, the CEO of a big academic hospital in the Netherlands, because there where I really was working and growing up. And it was so rejected. And it's good that it was rejected, because I grew out of failures, faults. You can grow. But most importantly, we had no tools in hands. We had a little bit of a hand grip strength. We were asking people, do you fall? No, they were not. So now we have the tools in place, and that's so exciting. And that's my dream, that in 5 years' time, everybody has access to it. Everybody knows currently what their energy level is, what their biological age is, what their life expectancy might be. If they want to make changes, everybody will have a dashboard. And it's your choice with the right appropriate knowledge to actually to act or not to act. You can be my guest not to act, but you will have certain consequences to carry.
There has been such an abundance of information over the last few days, especially around epigenetic clocks, biological age tests, the amount in the market. Not to forget all the more popularized ones like VO2 max and DEX scans and all that. According to Andrea Maier, how should one measure their age?
It's not one thing. It depends on in which situation you are, which country you are living at, what kind of means you have. So I'm also working with the WHO, the World Health Organization, to really say, okay, how should we measure the biological age? And it depends on the context. I think everybody should know their weight and their height. Let's start with that. Many of us do not know what their weight is. So
don't want to
know. See, it's important. So don't go into the field of we have to know what our epigenetic age is measured by methylation patterns. No, let's start with the basics. So know what your weight is. And I think before measuring your biological age, know what your habits are. Know what you eat and make choices, because independent of measuring your biological age, but already thinking about your food habits or your physical activity habits, your sleep habits, you can already change without knowing your biological age. You can already lower it. So starting really investigating who you are, why do you want to measure your biological age, and then actually going into that arena of measuring a VO2 max. Everybody, in my view, should know their VO2 max, and not just estimate it with a digital device.
I was going to ask, are they accurate? Because my Whoop VO2 max, it's scary. It's dropped down by like 15 points over the last 6 months. I don't even want to tell you what it is now.
Okay, I don't want to know.
I'm just saying, you know what, it's just not accurate.
So they are not accurate in their absolute numbers, but they're very good in their change and their trends.
Okay.
So measure it once. You don't have to measure it every three months, as some would advise. I think it's overkill of diagnostics. And then track it with a digital device. So if somebody has a digital device, either a ring or a smartwatch, yes, use it, absolutely. But I think the information is not useful if you don't have the knowledge what it actually means and how you can change these kind of numbers. Yeah. So that's most important. And of course, digital devices are very important. We call them digital biomarkers of aging. But know your blood pressure, know your cognition. Do you know how cognitively healthy you are?
Myself?
Yes.
I've just done one BCI test, but no.
Okay, so it's for many people very scary to talk about their cognition, because from the age of 40 onwards, you feel that some people are faster than you are, and you might not memorize it as accurately as when you were 20.
What are the best tests, by the way?
The best test is also dependent where you are, which kind of language you speak, because many of these tests are not validated. Very often you could do it. CanTAP, for example. All the screening tests which are actually borrowed out of geriatrics are not very useful in middle-aged individuals. So then we are talking about a MOCA test, etc. But the nice thing is knowing, if you know your cognition, you can actually train it. So we just acquired a brain gym, Sparked by Chi Longevity. And it's fascinating. Like, sports is so nice, and you are training your brain immediately by being on that treadmill. Like, make it fun. Whatever you do and whatever you measure, know about your intervention and make it fun, because then the adherence is much, much better.
Very interesting.
So no epigenetics now in my talk. So epigenetics is if you did all the clinical testing, so knowing what your heart rate is, knowing what your pulse rate velocity, so the elasticity in your vessels are, what your brain function might be, and you know your digital phenotype, know what your glucose level is continuously, then it's time to look at epigenetics or the microbiome. And we do that in our patients. It's wonderful to measure, know what your genetics are. But that's all layered on top of the basics.
Absolutely.
So start with your weight.
So we get to that point. Then, according to you, what does one then do? The lifestyle we know is incredibly important. And you live in Singapore, which has done amazing things at creating the right environment, the right lived environment for its 5-ish million people. But then past that, what are the more advanced therapeutics that you're getting excited about?
We have just launched the Beyond Tomorrow community, and I would love for you to be a part of it. Think masterminds with some of your favorite podcast guests, dinners and events in your city, accountability groups, free giveaways, and a space to have all your questions answered. And what's best, it's all for free. Just check out the link in the description below or head to school.com/beyond-tomorrow. That's skool.com/beyond-tomorrow.
So first of all, lifestyle is very advanced if you apply it accordingly. So I would say make lifestyle interventions sexy, because they are not. Yes, because everybody thinks, okay, I couldn't reach my 10,000 steps. I couldn't lose the weight, and I don't know how much broccoli I should eat. So that's absolutely not attractive, because we do not guide our customers, our clients, the public into making it very attractive. So knowing what the balance is, knowing what the endurance is, knowing what the fear to max therewith is, and knowing what the strength is, you can train very appropriately with lifestyle intervention. So go to the gym, but not just doing and do the weightlifting, but appropriately based on your needs. And then the combination, the multimodal interventions are so important. Based on your gut microbiome, really feed them with what they need, what kind of fibers you should eat, how much vitamins you can actually produce in your gut that you don't need the multivitamin pill. So it's so important to just start, you would say, with the basics, but the basics are so complicated and they are complex, and they are so powerful. I don't know any interventions where you could go from just a normal habit. If you would optimize that habit, we could increase 10 years of lifespan and also health span. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, you have the nutraceuticals and the repurposed drugs, and then my heart rate really goes up because this is what I love. But don't forget the basics, and don't forget the power of the basics. And especially if you do it in an N-1 approach.
N of one, which, again, for any listener who doesn't know, it's the idea that you are individual and that you're going to be different to someone else. You're living in Singapore now, you've lived in Europe, in the US, and in many places around the world. What is the data showing you on the differences, the cultural differences, the biological or genetic differences when it comes to the lifestyle factors?
Biological differences are huge, but especially because of the lifestyle. So it's about the habits and what you do and where you live. And how much you are working outside, for example. Like if it's 40 degrees and you're living in the Middle East, you have a different pattern compared to living in the UK or living in Singapore, where it's very humid. Of course, it differs. And also your food intake is quite different. But it does not mean that we cannot apply, for example, the clocks we are now developing, the epigenetic clocks, how we are measuring the biological age. We cannot say, okay, these should not be applied to Caucasians living in Singapore, or the Chinese living in Singapore, or the Chinese living in China. So I think that we are at the stage, and we have agreement within the Biomarkers of Aging Consortium and also within the physician space, that we can apply the clocks independent of where you live and what kind of ethnicity you have. And of course, you are unique. So this is a beauty, I would say, I see as a clinician, because I always say, you are a diamond. We just have to polish you. And every diamond is different. And everybody is so unique. And I think people have to fall in love with their own body again, that they are so unique. And that's so important. It's so massive. Like if you really discover who you are. And that's, of course, there's a shaping based on the environment. So we call that exposome, where you are living and what kind of friends you have. And if you have friends or you don't want friends and you have dogs or you have cats or you have whatever, does not matter. But really realizing who you are, your uniqueness in the context, in the surrounding, and matching that, then people thrive mentally, physically, socially.
Let's go a bit deeper into the advanced therapeutics. So what are you most excited about when it comes to advanced therapeutics?
So the question is, what is advanced? So very often we see what's already on the shelf. We don't think that, or we think it's advanced because it's already on the shelf. And I'm talking about supplements. And every molecule you can already buy online. I wouldn't say that it's really advanced because it's not evidence-based. And I take it very seriously, only prescribing to my clients anything which is evidence-based. And what do I mean with it? I mean, we understand the biology, we understand the physiology, how it could react. It very often worked in animal models, but it has been trialed and proven clinically meaningful in humans. And then it's something to consider for that individual to include into their life. Okay. So is that advanced or not? I don't know. I would say that we do lots of advanced studies thinking about doing a trial now of seaweed, brown seaweed. And brown seaweed might not be so advanced because you can just fish it in Japan out of the water. But understanding the advanced biology behind it, looking at fucoidin, for example, which is a molecule which is activating SIRT6, which is hugely involved in the aging process. Like, whoa, we are understanding biology. What we also do, we are manipulating biology, which is just something which is coming out of the sea, and it's called brown seaweed. So it's so advanced. And if you're looking back at in medicine, we always, while testing something and seeing signals, we are going back into the biology and understanding it. And I think that's so exciting. Very often, people think advanced therapies is gene editing. Beautiful. I'm not sure if that's going to work for longevity or for the aging process because it's so multifactorial, and then we have to change all our genes. We can, with eyes, reshape our epigenetics. Super wonderful, will maybe be possible in 5 to 10 years' time. So all is advanced. Stem cell therapies, of course, we have the logic, we don't have the evidence. Not yet, in my view, ready for prime time in clinical practice. So all these are advanced. Chips implanted into your brain. And I think neurostimulation is so beautifully important for Parkinson's, for example. Not yet there for the longevity indication. So always think about what kind of methodology, therapy do we have? Where is it coming from? Is there already an indication? And could that be repurposed for the longevity indication? But it doesn't mean that it was tested for a certain disease that now we have a longevity indication.
You said earlier about someone in their 40s starting to lose some cognition. From your research...
when you're 20.
Sure. But is there a point where you see more people interested in longevity in geroscience? And is there a point in our lives? I've heard about these 3 moments where we jump. I know with women it's different because of menopause, but yeah.
You are in constant andropause, okay?
Okay, yeah. But are there moments where people become more aware of the aging process because, I've just aged much faster in this period of time?
So we are aging constantly. So as you might know, biologists, clinicians, we don't have one definition of when aging really starts. But what you can see clinically is once you have reached your peak at the age of 18 to 25, like every function you can measure is just declining. Yeah. So, and it's beautifully being shown in the Dunedin study where in normal people just living in a very, very nice country in New Zealand, you are seeing the decline within 2 decades. So it's very obvious that clinically meaningfully decline we can detect from the age of 20, 25, 5 onwards. People do not recognize that they are different at the age of 30 compared to the age of 20, because we humans have something very, very natural, and that's compensation. So we say, oh, I don't have to do it. But people couldn't do it anymore. So I would love that everybody on Earth is just doing the running time, the 100 meters from the age of 5 onwards. And then we do not a growth curve as we would normally do with babies and with children, but do the running curve and then seeing the decline in capacity. It's much, much cheaper than a VO2 max, by the way, to really see, okay, how powerful are you to run 100 meter? So everybody listening here, just run 100 meter and see how fast you are. And maybe you have even data from your childhood, how fast you were. So we are declining in terms of performance. We are declining in terms of performance. We are not recognizing, for example, our memory. And from the age of 40, it's very obvious. Okay. And then people come to longevity clinics.
And what are the main tools you provide them? Apart from getting measured, apart from the lifestyle stuff I know we talked about,
yep.
What is there that formula?
Oh, there's absolutely a formula. So first of all, we are not an a la carte menu sort of restaurant. Very often what you are seeing in the longevity field, the advertisements, you get this and you get that. And here you can go and buy the exosome or the stem cell therapies or whatever. This is not what medicine looks like. Medicine is first diagnosing where you are and then prescribing a therapy. I will give you an example. You are coming to me, I'm a physician, and you want chemotherapy.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah. Hi.
You want chemotherapy. So I, as a physician, would never prescribe you chemotherapy without having checked if you have cancer. Would be stupid. Yes, because you would throw up and you would be very, very sick, and I would make you sick.
It's like if I come wanting a hyperbaric chamber or whatever it is.
Yes, and you just get it.
Yeah.
So it's an a la carte menu. If you want the pizza margarita, you will get it. Yes, but that's not medicine. And we learned in normal medicine that we cannot just prescribe whatever patients want because it will not solve the problem. So first, we have to analyze what the problem is, where the pain point is, how people are aging, how fast the aging process is, where aging is more progressed in one organ compared to the other, and how to tackle it. Because I think we agree that everybody is aging differently. I just talked about the diamonds and how to polish them. But a diamond looks different, and that's a uniqueness, and that's the NS1 approach. So you first have to diagnose what is the problem, which means we don't have a la carte menus at G Longevity. So what do our clients get? A very thorough analysis of the biological, clinical, and digital phenotype. So we know their genome, we know what the risk factors are, but we also know the mental state of them because our psychologists are actually asking, what do you want to achieve? Why are you here? Very important question. Is it something, I'm not sure if you have that on Saturdays and Sundays. Sometimes I think, oh, I am a little bit tired. I will go for a massage. Yes. So then my short-term relationship with the industry is I have a massage. Yes. Very often longevity is in the same bucket because it's nice to do. We go to do a cold plunge and we do a little bit of NED drips. But that's not how medicine works. So a thorough analysis, why do people want something? And then the interventions. And the interventions are looking at the exposome, looking at, lifestyle intervention, tracking clients 24/7. I see that you have a whoop. So we could actually now add you to our CRM system, our medical system, and watch you constantly if you want and nudge you into the direction.
I'm happy for you to watch me constantly.
To help you to make certain choices. Then we are working with nutraceuticals. So think about a urlacin A or an NMN or an alpha-ketoglutarate. And we use repurposed drugs. So think about SGLT2 inhibitors, GLP-1, metformin, bisphosphonates. So there is such a plethora of possibilities to shape and to polish this diamond you are.
So interesting, because again, I'm not mentioning any names here. We had one talk from a gentleman this week where he mentioned maybe, I don't know, it must have been 15 or 20 different types of processes, supplements, therapeutics, simply in his clinic / lab. And it felt like a bit of an overkill. And I asked a question around, does one measure as they stack? Is there a risk that one can do too much? Is there a cultural difference between different countries when it comes to that, by the way?
No, it's not a country difference. I think it's in terms of cult difference.
Cult. Okay.
So not culture, cult.
And what are the different cults?
So
I'm already signed up for a few, so I might have to.
No, for me, it's very important. If I'm prescribing even a supplement, a nutraceutical, which you could buy on Amazon, I want to measure first if I should prescribe that supplement and measure after a certain number of weeks again if that supplement, if my therapy had an effect. After doing that, I will add another one, a therapeutic, to actually see if I have an additive effect. Because as a sort of Brian Johnson, adding 100 supplements to a dish does not mean that all the 100 are additive. Very likely they are not. Because there is 0 studies in humans, except of a couple of studies on repurposed drugs, without a good trial design, showcasing that you actually, if you add one thing and you add another thing, you have mutual benefit and you have better outcomes. And this is actually what we are doing at NUS, the National University of Singapore. We are designing these trials. We are doing multimodal interventions, we call it, which means we first analyze who that person is, what the need is, and then giving the supplements, and then retesting another supplement on top of it to actually see if one medication plus another, plus the third one, has the best outcome.
When I hear that, I feel like we're doing such a disservice when it comes to the testing space, because I really want that. I want to be able to test every time that I try something, but it's so expensive to test and it's inconvenient and all that. I, as an example, took a supplement stack that you just mentioned, and my creatinine levels went through the roof. Yep. And I luckily had booked in a random test 3 months into that. But if I had carried on, I could have ended up with real kidney issues. And so it's, how do we move towards that? Because I love the idea of what you're creating, but how do we make it available for all? So people can test maybe once every 2 weeks.
Yeah. So the first thing I think we should really medicalize at the moment, healthy longevity medicine. So because we don't, as even physicians, we are learning, and we don't have the tools to give to the public yet, I think, to, on a population level, self-experiment, because that's what you did. 1/3 of my clients are biohackers, and they ask me, I'm lost because I'm taking so much and I don't know what to do. Like, help. And having this symptoms and that symptoms, and I don't know when they actually started. Help. Here, geriatrician comes in because we learned how to deprescribe. So we have criteria. And this is what we are applying, or I'm applying now with my group to this new field, because actually we are deprescribing. And once we are in a zone where we think, okay, these are quite reasonable to do and to give, we are prescribing again, but we are measuring it. And of course, we are not there yet where you can ask for measurements like a CRP, which is roughly a euro or a dollar. Doesn't matter, you can afford it. We are talking about sometimes a vitamin D measurements for $30 or $35. Like, it's expensive. So how do we now make sure that we have surrogate markers that we can, with a good likelihood, we can say, yes, it works and it doesn't work out of, for example, digital devices, that we can say, yeah, there's a likelihood it works, and we just do have to do the blood work every 6 months or 12 months, and then very specific. But how would you know where to look at? Because very often it's random and you have no clue, and then the GP or the family physician or you as a customer is doing yourself, I want to know everything. So I think the guided approach is very important, to be more selective, and there was also more cost efficient.
I did a talk, I was leading a panel recently, which was called Snake Oil versus Science. And one of the questions I opened with was, has snake oil been a net positive for humanity over many millennia? And the reason for that is the placebo, the benefits of placebo. But there is a lot of snake oil, a ton. And there's the kind of blatant snake oil, the stuff that kind of doesn't work. And then there's the kind of the less obvious stuff that's probably doing some people more harm, especially with supplements. Andrea, I know you're passionate about this area. Where should someone start? Because a lot of it comes down to not even having information or misinformation.
I'd just like to say a big thanks to our sponsors of this episode, Immortal Dragons, who are a purpose-driven longevity fund based out of Singapore. Immortal Dragons supports moonshot longevity initiatives and radical life extension technology. Get in touch with Immortal Dragons for pitch calls or their internship program via contact@id.life.
So I think listen to your podcast, so hopefully you get enough knowledge out of who you're speaking to, what the snake oil is and what not. And I think I have nothing against snake oil if it feels better and you are feeling better, if people are well informed and they have the means and they want it. Like there should be no restriction. Like I'm not the one judging to take 50 supplements a day. Just go for it if you take the risk and you know what you are talking about and you know what the consequences are.
Yeah.
Same for smoking. If you will still want to smoke, like take the risks, but don't think that then the health insurer should pay. So it's about knowledge transfer, making that decision, and hopefully the decision making being shared with somebody who has a little bit more knowledge because it's their job to give advice. So we did, and you might like that, we did a survey in Singapore, and we asked, do you follow health influencers? And who do you trust? And do you change your lifestyle based on YouTubers? So,
well, why are you saying I would like this?
I don't know. So, your followers. So, what we found out is that in Singapore, 80% are following health influencers. That's, I would say it's not negative. It's top. Great. And then we ask, okay, do you actually change your lifestyle based on it? And roughly 30 to 40% say yes, and I follow it for 2 or 3 months, and then I need another health influencer to guide me through because then it's getting boring again. But the most important thing is people are following the advice of health influencers. First of all, if the health influencer is fit and looks good.
Okay. I need to on my VO2 max again then.
Secondly, is if there are any credentials behind it. So if you have a PhD, an MD, or a bachelor, or whatever, you put something. And of course, this does not mean so much very often, but these are the factors. So really lead by example and have the credentials. And I think that's so important. And I think I would love, so if anybody is listening here, being a health influencer, just reach out, because we would love them to work with them, to not only recruit to our trials, but especially in bringing the information if somebody should take alpha-ketoglutarate. We have our trial results. When we are publishing, we are reaching the audience of scientists and sometimes of physicians. We need you guys, the health influencers, to really reach the masses and in a way that it's evidence-based and people can understand it.
Absolutely. And I have to caveat, because I'm a journalist and I'm not an
health influencer
or an academia. No, but like longevity is one part of a wider mission we are all about, which is it's related to the exposome. It's related to many things, mindset. It's related to weaving threads of understanding between different groups that are broken. So it's the way that I look at the podcast, and the way that it's away from simply health and longevity. And I will always say anecdotally what I think based on my own health, but I bring on amazing experts like you to inform our listeners based on the amazing research that you've done. So
Can we have an arrangement?
tell me.
So
Do you want off the record?
No, on
The record, okay.
So every podcast you are now doing, you first report your sleep level and your VO2 max to your audience.
Okay.
And seeing that increase in the followers when also then follow. And I think that's so powerful.
Yeah. Well, look, listeners, I will hold you all accountable, okay? If I forget that, it's a sleep score and VO2 max, okay? Wow, I feel vulnerable with that because I don't sleep as well as I would like to, and my VO2 max has dropped down, as I said. But that's also because I've been busy with other stuff. And
Yeah, it's always an excuse.
But also, I'm happier. I'm more connected. I have a huge level of purpose. I have been doing something I absolutely adore. I would say my glycan age, whether you believe it or not, it's my glycan age test came back as 29. I'm 33 chronologically, so I had some really good results, especially around the hormonal stuff and testosterone. I was like, okay, this is good. So I'm doing something right. But I can tell that there's other stuff I should be doing.
Sure,
and so it's,
sure. And I didn't know, of course, what your sleep scores are, but it's so important because earlier we talked about the brain health. So if you really want to have a snack for your brain, then do something about your sleep.
Can I just get one second?
Yeah, let's do a trio. That's
Crashing the party.
Love it. We were just talking about, God, many things. One thing
we have a deal.
We have it, okay. Because as Matt, I'm a journalist. And we were just talking about how health influencers have a huge responsibility. Matt is very passionate about this. And I will advocate for people like Matt all the time because he's doing great work. And I was saying how I will always bring on amazing people like yourselves. And I will anecdotally talk about my experience, but always caveat the fact that I am not a MD, I'm not an academic, but I can bring complexity and hopefully distill it to a larger audience. So yeah, that was where we were at. And then Matt came in, which is...
And I'm here now.
Yeah.
And he is going to report his sleep scores and the VO2 max in every new episode.
Because mine has absolutely...
How are you measuring it?
Currently with my Whoop.
Okay. What's the error on the Whoop?
We were talking about this, exactly. I was wanting
Don't trust the numbers that you get from devices or direct-to-consumer companies because oftentimes they don't tell you what the error is.
Yeah.
Sort of the theme, one of the themes of my talks.
Okay, yes, but read the article where we actually define the digital biomarkers of aging and look through all the electronic devices to actually see what is the valid one or not.
And what's the answer?
Aura and the Samsung is the best.
Really?
Yes,
But does that mean it's valid for clinical use or it's the best among
No, it depends on what
nonsense?
So of course, no. Who actually, based on the validity, if you have a golden standard and you actually went through the lab for sleep studies, etc. Right. So, but huge disparity between.
Yeah, I mean, I think that aligns more or less with what I would have guessed. I mean, we use Aura, and I think it's pretty good. But I think also it gives you a lot of information. So you may have looked. I don't know what all the measurements were that you looked at or which version it was. These things are changing all the time. But sometimes, like Aura, may be really good at sleep quality, right? Not so good at heart rate variability. And
so it is actually the best for heart rate variability.
I just pulled that out of the air.
Yes. That's for the audience. If you want heart rate variability, Aura is good. Sleep
Did you
is
test
also
the
good.
Morpheus? Because I think the Morpheus would kick Aura's butt on heart rate variability every day.
Didn't. No. The Polar...
Of all the different devices?
220 devices.
220
Yeah. We did
devices.
it. Yeah.
The Aura was the best of all of them.
No.
It depends on what you're measuring.
No. And
How many Auras have you got on?
No. It's a huge ultra-human, okay? No. We are testing. Many of the companies have black boxes also in terms of the algorithms, and it's really hard to get the data. So a PhD student, Jessica Liu, did through all the devices and contacted everybody, and it's a nice publication. So if somebody wants to know how to measure cardiovascular measures, which is different from sleep. If you want an overall mediocre one, do the Apple.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
No. So actually, the one thing I want to add to that is, I mean, I think the take home is so certainly people should go read your paper if they are so inclined and pick out the best for what they're trying to measure. I think for the average consumer, the real take home though is just don't just assume that the number these things give you is accurate, right? I think you need to have some degree of skepticism that what it's telling you is actually real in a statistical sense, right? Because if you don't know what the error is, if you get a change over time, you can't know whether or not that change is real biologically or not. And that's where I think we struggle, is we often don't know what the errors are on these measurements or these estimates.
Yes, but very often I agree with you for the absolute number. So if you're talking about a VO2 max, and is it really your VO2 max? No, it's not. Absolutely not. If you do it nicely on a treadmill and a bike. But very often, if you want to look at the trend, it gives an indication.
No.
Yes,
I'm going to push back 100%. No, here's why.
Come?
Because if you don't know the error on the measurement, it doesn't matter what the trend is if you don't know whether or not that's within a standard deviation of the measurement.
No, that's true. But we know that the standard deviation is of the measurement, the alpha. So I was talking about the beta. But
if you have that, but we don't have that for lots of these tests.
But we have for the very well, for example, for the Aura, we have it for the Samsung, etc. So the 5 largest companies, they have very good validated alphas and betas.
Where do we get that information?
Yeah, go to the paper.
Okay. So again, this is my point. Most consumers aren't going to do that. Most consumers don't know what the standard deviation is.
Yes.
So they're going to assume that a 1 unit change is meaningful when maybe the standard deviation is 8 units.
No.
That's my only point.
No. Yeah, there's lots of noise. Yes.
I think everybody understands that when you measure something, there's a plus or minus, right? It's within some range. It's not a perfectly accurate number. So if the biological age that you get back is 50, but the plus or minus is 25, you do it again in a year and your biological age is 60, that means nothing. It's within the noise. So if you don't know what that noise is, you can't know how big does a change need to be real. And we don't know that for most of these things. And we certainly don't know it for the biological age clocks.
Absolutely, but we know it for a number of steps, for example.
You know it, but the average person doesn't.
No. But I would say even in the number of steps, there is not the accuracy that it's plus minus 1, but not plus minus 10,000 or whatever. Yeah. So it's quite.
I agree. I mean, I'm being a bit extreme. There are things like
you are.
No, but I mean, but I think people need to understand this, because most people err on the side of assuming these things are accurate, right?
Yes.
And if you step on your scale and it's off by 5 pounds,
yes, it's huge.
So what is the purpose of these consumer devices? I can speak
to make money.
But what is the purpose for the consumer? Because the consumer seemingly wants to engage with them and subscribe for longer. For me personally, I would say, has a Whoop and my Aura, whatever, have they been a net positive? I would say absolutely. I'm at the point now where I'm probably going to churn off.
I think it depends on the device. But like step trackers, that's a good example, right? So step trackers, anybody who's ever used the step tracker on your Apple Watch knows that it's not accurate, perfectly accurate, right? You can go on a hike. I go on a hike with my wife, and mine will come back at one number. Hers will come back at a completely different number. We're different in height, but not by that much, right? But
what's the intrinsic value, though?
Well, I think as a motivational tool, there's value. Yes. And I think, as Andrea was saying there, over time, you get a feel for how close it is to what you perceive as the true value, at least in terms of how far you've walked. So you kind of know if it's 12,000 plus or minus 1,000. You kind of know that just from using it a lot. And I think it's useful in that context.
Yeah. It's just objective. It's sort of objectifying without being very valid what you actually did, and it's a nice.
But I think it depends on the use case, because biological age tests are completely different.
Yeah.
You're not using those every day. You don't get a feel for what the variation is. You're doing it once a year, probably. Some people will do it quarterly, I suppose, but nobody's doing it every day.
At the moment, we don't have this scalability when it comes to clinics, right? So someone can't just walk in and get the kind of gold standard. Or can they? I don't know about in the US, but I know in the UK, there are certain tests we can get from our general practitioner. But the beauty of these wearables, the scalability, is that anyone can have one for what, $50, $100?
Depends on the device.
$150?
Yeah. A few $100 in the US. Aura Ring, I think, is $500 now or so, $400.
Which is still quite a bit. But is there like an in-between?
Again, I wouldn't want to suggest these devices don't have any value. I think they do. I think it depends on the device and how you're using it. For me, the Oura Ring, I think it sounds like you. I used it for about a year. I learned a lot. I mean, the thing I really learned is alcohol trashes your sleep, right? That's the number one thing I learned, which is the one universal it seems everybody experiences.
I think that's the reason for alcohol to decline.
But then it got to the point where, I kind of felt like it wasn't bringing any more value, and I stopped wearing it.
Most importantly, you talked about scalability. Is if we would involve GPs, family physicians in it, and actually looking at glucose levels, blood pressures, which we should do anyway, we could measure biological ages out of it, doesn't matter. But if your blood pressure and your glucose level is not good enough, like do something and measure it. HbA1c, wonderful marker. CRP, wonderful marker.
I would agree completely.
So it's already there. It's not about that longevity medicine is not scalable. I think it's about how do we introduce it into public health structures.
And there's this misperception, I think, that longevity medicine, I don't like that phrase, but I'll use it.
Longevity medicine.
Longevity medicine has to be fancy, all these expensive diagnostics only for billionaires, right? That's not true. I mean, definitely there are clinics you can go to that have great programs that are very expensive, but there is definitely an 80-20. And I said in my talk, that's what we're trying to find. I actually think we can find the 95-5, right? 95% of the value for 5% of the cost, right? That exists, and I think that's what Andrea is getting at, is there are a lot of biomarkers that we know a lot about that aren't particularly expensive, some imaging available. You pair that with some of these wearables, and you've got a very powerful data set to keep people healthier much longer than what we're currently accomplishing.
Well, what are a few of those that you mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, well, so I think in terms of, actually, I'll let Andrea give hers, because she's done this a lot longer than I have.
She had previously.
And if there's anything that we do differently or that I feel, I think there's a lot of value to, I'll chime in.
Just clinical parameters, which every GP could already do, is very important to do. We looked at the UK Biobank, so just it's a very big population study. More than 150,000 healthy people we were identifying, and we were making a body clock just out of normal parameters every GP could do and is already doing. It's how to use and utilize the data to then say, okay, what's your biological age if you want a biological age? I think it's overhyped to have all the clocks, but just using these kind of parameters to optimize the health of individuals. It's quite easy, and that was what we already do in Singapore in publicly funded longevity clinics. Yeah. So we democratize it. We are using the markers which are available already to shape the diamond, as we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Andrea, where are we going? What are you most excited about when it comes to the breakthroughs? Bring in, I know AI, I talked about it being a slightly dirty word in longevity at times. What are the big breakthroughs that are going to happen in the next few years that are going to move the needle most forward when it comes to, let's say, the work that you're doing at CHAI or at NUS?
So I wouldn't say that AI will be the breakthrough. I think it's a very good tool, but if you don't have the data, it's very, very hard, but it absolutely helps. So we already built digital twins based on AI models, but having that, the right markers being measured in a valid way is, I think, very important. So I think that the breakthrough is, and maybe that's not what you expect, is that there is a change in thinking of health insurers, a change of thinking of the public, because without the public and the drive and who wants to eat so many supplements, I think we wouldn't there where we are. So in the next coming 5 years, I think there's a consumer drive to democratize and to have clinics around, and hopefully with validated tools and validated therapeutics, which are accessible for nearly everybody who wants to do it. And I think also the choice, do you want to act or not? And bringing that knowledge and having more knowledge transfer, I think, is the most important one. And then driven by AI or not, it's already in our hands.
You make such a good point about the shift in mindset. Mm-hmm. What is going to really drive home that shift? Because right now, I don't see anything changing. I see such an overabundance of supplements being taken and so much noise that people are struggling to find the tools. I think clinics need to be somehow democratized somehow, but I feel it's going to take quite long to get there.
No, I don't want to stimulate supplement use. I think I'm the one who says no, don't take them. So, but it means that there is a consumer drive. Consumers want products, and I think that's very important. And I think Matt is also doing his part in that entrepreneurship. I think we all now do, because we have consumers who want to buy products, and we just have to make sure that it's in the best evidence-based level and most rational, most democratized. And that's happening at this moment.
But how do we get there?
Yeah, well, I think what I would add to that is I don't think that can happen right now in the consumer space. I think the direct-to-consumer model, the incentive structures are all aligned to make it not evidence-based. In fact, there are incentives not to do the studies to figure out what works, what doesn't work. So I think this has to happen in a medical context, at least right now. And I would suggest that, at least in the United States, our current system is not sustainable. I talked about this in my talk. Economically, it is not sustainable. It is collapsing. And so there has to be change. Nobody knows what that change is going to look like. I hope that the economic incentives will help move this shift towards a more proactive approach to maintaining health, because what's breaking our system is the fact that the population is aging and it's very, very expensive to take care of sick people, to keep sick people alive. So I think there will be these economic forces combined with more visibility, more people talking about proactive approaches to health. Hopefully that will lead to a cultural shift. And it already is. It's just so early. And I think those of us who are in the longevity bubble, like we hear it, we think about it all the time, and then you go talk to people who aren't, you're like, oh my God, they still don't get it, right? But it is happening.
You are right with regards to the medical model, and we have to change because there is a financial incentive, and not only the financial incentive that it has costs, but also the productivity increase we could have or feeling better. So we surveyed around the globe different nations and asked the public, really public, non-biased, would you like to feel better? Would you go to longevity clinics? So it's two different questions. Do you take supplements, etc.? And it's that in nearly every country, roughly 2/3 of the population gets what the concept is on healthy longevity medicine, and they would like to come if they could afford it. So there's really the willingness. So that's the reason why I say the consumer drive is so enormous. Because at the age of 40 to 50, like 50 or 100 years ago, I think, okay, if you can still work, that's great. But now you want to feel better. You want to get everything out of your life. You want to see your grandkids. You just want to function better. And that's so different from 20 years ago.
I do want to round off there. I'm just going to ask one last question.
Well, can I just add one thing to that? Because I think one of the mindset changes or educational pieces that as a community we need to get across more effectively is I think people want an easy fix, right? They want a magic peptide or a magic gene therapy or something easy. That doesn't exist. And it's unlikely to ever exist. GLPs may be the closest we come to something like that, right? Where you can take a drug and get the benefit of a lifestyle modification that people perceive as harmful. I'm not saying GLPs are perfect. They're not, but they work.
You prescribe them in your clinic?
Yeah, but
Absolutely.
watch your muscles.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, I agree. But my point is we know how to improve health span. Like we know what needs to happen from a lifestyle perspective. I started to say most people know, and I'm not actually sure that's true. I think there's still a lot of confusion around what does a healthy lifestyle really look like. But there's this idea that we're never going to get people to do it, right? And I think maybe we need to have a conversation around that. I mean, maybe we never are. Maybe behavior modification really is super, super hard. I mean, it is hard. But I think there's this cultural perception that we're never going to get people to adopt a healthy lifestyle. And maybe we should talk about that. I don't actually believe that's true. I've done it. I know it's possible, right? I went from a crappy lifestyle to a healthier lifestyle.
The big caveat is the chronic stress. I think we forget until we're highly stressed by financials or bereavement or whatever, that how difficult it is to kind of get to that point. I felt it myself.
Yeah, I agree. But if you modify your lifestyle, you will be better able to manage stress. Yeah. So these things go hand in hand. I don't disagree with you. There are a lot of forces in our world that make it really hard to be healthy. And that's where I again, and there are disparities, right? For people who are economically disadvantaged, let's just be honest, it's a lot harder to adopt a healthy lifestyle. So these are big, challenging problems. But I do think there are solutions out there. And I am a little bit more optimistic about AI. I think AI is potentially it's not going to be a complete equalizer, but it addresses some of these disparities right now that make it hard for economically disadvantaged people to get access to high quality proactive healthcare, or it will in the future. It hasn't got there yet, is my guess.
Amazing. We started by talking about the effects of on cognition as someone enters their 40s or awareness.
We talked about the lifestyle.
We talked about me and the effects on
minus 10 years.
What Andrea's noticed in my declining cognitive function.
I knew that you were coming.
What parting piece of advice could you give to a listener on what they could do?
About cognition? Okay, train your brain. Come to our brain gym.
The process of aging and how to deal with it and how to potentially slow it down. Apart from getting measured.
Love yourself. I think that's so important. So know who you are and make the decisions based on the knowledge you have and take advice to take the steps. And so I will not say go to a longevity physician. It doesn't really matter, but love life, because if you don't have a purpose to be here at this moment in time, life is not very meaningful.
Matt?
No, I mean, I agree completely. I think beyond that, love other people.
Okay.
Have human relationships. Yeah. I do think sense of purpose is super important. We've talked about the lifestyle pillars, right? So I think know yourself, maybe in addition to love yourself, is where I would land, in the sense that I think most people are able to identify where they're struggling, whether it's chronic stress because you're doom scrolling social media late at night, or you eat foods that you know are bad for you, or you don't exercise. Like, I think most people have an idea where they're weakest.
We're getting there, but I feel like doom scrolling. I'd love to know the data that you're collecting on the effects of social media. I feel like that's a bit of a hidden that we don't really know about. But
I don't know if we're not actually collecting data to try to show cause and effect. Anecdotally, a lot of people have, especially in the US, given our political situation right now, a lot of people have a lot of stress because they are exposing themselves to content online. It's not just social media, but a lot of it is, that creates strong emotions, which are usually negative. Again, social media is designed to pull people in largely through negativity, and that creates stress.
And it's the quantity and the quality. Yeah. But I'm so nice to hear that you actually summarized what we discussed in our...
Well, Matt, thank you so much for crashing.
Absolutely. Anytime
podcast.
You want me to obnoxiously drop
Andrea, sorry for getting Matt to crash the podcast. And I will make a promise right now that at the beginning of every podcast, or at the end of every podcast, one or the other, I will say what my sleep score was for the week and also my VO2 max.
Okay. Give me your ring size and I will send you also a ring to measure, because that's better for this.
I actually I was wearing 3 wearables a few weeks ago testing.
Are you estimating your VO2 max based on what, a wearable?
If you can, well, exactly. This is a great conversation. Right now, I do not trust that VO2
You shouldn't.
max.
My VO2 max on my Apple Watch is 35 or 38.
Okay.
I just had it tested in Berlin, and it was 49 point something.
Wow. Okay.
So big difference. And I think that's because I don't wear my watch at night.
Yeah.
But whatever, it's way off.
Yeah, mine dipped from about 52 when I was working out for this big high rocks, like CrossFit-esque thing, and it's now down to 38, and that's a space of 9 months.
Yeah, I bet if you were to go get it tested, it wouldn't be that low.
Yeah, but I have gained quite a bit of weight. But hey, folks, don't start a podcast.
Thank you.
You sit on your ass a lot. Thank you all so much. Appreciate it.